Nader can't believe it, neither can Whiteman, but Nader picked Jake Whiteman on the line.
The Football Kenya Federation has begun the process of making the National Super League a much better and competitive league from the 2025-2026 season. The Football Kenya Federation's Leagues and Competition Committee held a consultative meeting with the NSL clubs to chart the way forward and improve the second division league. The NSL has teams drawn from most cities and towns in the country, more than the top tier FKF Premier League.
In our deliberations, we've also agreed with the teams that we shall push the commencement of the league to the 27th of this month to allow the tipping issues, including a matter that is before the Sports Dispute Tribunal, where we expect a ruling on Friday, the 19th, so that we know it has an effect on the fixtures, so that we can implement those effects. We have agreed to push the kickoff start to the 27th.
Yeah, African Rally champion Karan Patel is back for the season closing Mkwawa Rally of Tanzania, headed for Morogoro over the weekend. Patel has been out of action ever since he crashed out of the Rwanda Mountain Gorilla event in early July. Karan has good memories of the Tanzania Rally, which he won in 2022, but it wasn't enough to win him the African title. He again won the rally in 2024 and in 2024 to seal the African Rally Championship crown.
We just go with the flow. We do our best and hope things fall into place.
Alright, that's it for the news update on JKL, but the panel, the bench is still here. We'll be speaking to Nelson Havi, former president of the Law Society of Kenya, Gabriel Muthuma, who says he's a commoner, or common citizen. He's the deputy spokesperson of government, and of course Sheila Ola, who is also a development economist. We'll be back in a moment to talk about the latest in as far as management of the country has been going. What do you want to see in your country? We're back in a moment. On JKL tonight, critical look at President Ruto's focus 3 years in. Has he delivered?
Imperial Gardens Kikuyu by Username Properties. Just 15 minutes from Kikuyu town, get your 8-acre plot for just 1.249 million shillings. SMS plot to 20321 or call 0725 000 222.
Tomorrow on Tonight, News Gang. Our language does all of this and more. The more the milk, the better the chai. Chai Queen in a Brookside Dairy Best. With AMSA, kila transaction is step closer to possibilities. Swipe 1K ama do 5 digital transactions na uko kwa race ya kuwin 1 million Kenya shillings. Kuna ABSA debit ama credit card, acha story. Apply sahi uingie kwa winners list. Visit absabank.co.ke or an ABSA branch near you and play your cards right. ABSA, your story matters.
Watu wa Machakos, are you ready for Governor Wavinya Cup? Tupatane uwanjani as we cheer our teams and Manchester.
Karibia mwezi huu kwa wiki zote 40 za kaunti ya Machakos. Life is about building benchmarks to remember. Our steel isn't just about strength, it's about resilience. We're building a legacy. Our mark isn't just in the buildings we build, it's in the lives we impact, the communities we serve. Together, will leave our mark on this world. MRN, shaping every Kenyan dream since 1962.
Are you looking for the ideal piece of land for your family home? SIP Investment Cooperative and Equity Group bring you Thika Greens Golf Estate, a premier gated community located in the outskirts of Thika Town. This strategic property lies only 45 minutes from Nairobi CBD and enjoys proximity to amenities like schools, hospitals, places of worship, banks, and many more. Water and electricity are available for connection, and each plot has a ready title. 1/8 acre is selling at a starting price of 3.85 million shillings, with quarter acre starting at 6.95 million, and half acre starting at 11.7 million shillings. For more details, 121212 today.
Captain Pineapple Sizzle? Big fine, Vanna. Hold up, Julia. Did he just dip that wing into his captain in cola? Love it. However you fight on.
Beyond the gleaming skyscrapers, coming factories. Kwa hizi mitatu fanya biz na tech, zote ni backdrop tu. The real power driver in Kenya? Ni sisi. The dreamers. Sisi wala wasiojituma. The doers. The innovators. Sisi ndio tunajenga future. Sisi utafuta unga daily, tujijenge na tujenge jamii. Our businesses in association. Generations to come. Bidii yetu ndio maendeleo yetu, na tumegrow hizi hustle from simple ones to solid ones. Tukitaka kugrow zaidi, we choose partners with solutions that get us there. Solutions that power progress, step by step. Your dreams zetu will come true. You could also power your progress. Join Safaricom Business today. Power your progress at business.safaricom.co.ke.
I know it's you that sent me and Jojo that text message. I don't understand what you're talking about.
If you do what I've asked you to do, I'll pay you triple.
Friday, 10 p.m. Unajua ni kudunda kudozo. Piga start. Akupaju, kila mtu wafanya ni kupaju.
E for the energy, E for the party, E for the energy. Unaweza nita media design of
South Africa's mega hype man, good on it.
10/10, spiced by Captain Morgan Gold.
Hold up, Julia. Did he just dip that wing into his captain in cola? Love it. However you fight on.
Now to some great news for businesses. Safaricom is transforming business operations through tailored Talk More plans and Browse More plans available for corporate postpaid. The customized plans are built for corporate needs and provide total control on how your business uses voice and data, whether you choose more minutes for frequent stuff or customer calls, or allocate extra data for remote work and online collaboration for your staff. This enables you to customize plans to suit your business operational needs. Get your preferred corporate postpaid. And with that, I want us now to have a discussion here with the bench. Sheila is here. as well as Gabriel and Nelson. We had started off with the conversation about IPO and, of course, what will be happening with the compensation claims. But let's now transition a little bit because we've also had a week of the president speaking about what he's been able to attain. Before we get to the details, Sheila, what do you think has been the performance of the Kenya Kwanza administration?
A very tough question. Depends on it's the common mwananchi's time to speak now. Then we'll hear the official government position.
Yes.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because, from my perspective as an economist, we are going through an economic revolution. I don't really, for me, it doesn't matter how you want to place it here or there.
Yeah.
We've had some issues that did not start with this administration. So sometimes it's always important to contextualize it. So that we don't expect a magic wand to, to fix the issues that are going on.
Right.
Right before Kenya Kwanza came in, we knew that we had a youth problem, in that we are going to have a very big percentage of population that was young. Therefore, we were going to have unemployment issues. We had a huge debt problem. We had a huge corruption issue. And so these are things that the Kenya Kwanza administration walked in knowing very well that we have to do with some same time. There was the issues of bottom-up, there was the issues of, let's now go back to the common mwananchi, and really that tone, which was a message that was honestly, even for me, it was very well received, because I thought, okay, the best way that we're anticipating that we will have an economic crisis. So now we need to work on odious debt, corruption, try to stimulate the economy. So far, what I have seen is that as much as we are trying to streamline, I'm not going to give the economic part before I go into the human rights problem.
Right.
But so far, it is trying to streamline the macroeconomic indicators. So we talk about inflation rates. That the Yaunga, it was 200, now the Yaunga is it's going down. And the government is really kudos for working on the macro indicators. But why is there still issues on the ground? It is because of the micro indicators. And my worry is that, I don't know, Gabriel is here, will tell us today there's a plan to actually work on the micro. So it's always a question of purchasing power. Even if I put unga at 50 shillings today, if you do not have the 50 shillings in your pocket, it's a waste of time. Even if today I stabilize the dollar, if we don't have anything that we are, exporting out there in order to earn the dollars back in, then it won't make a difference. I worry a lot about also our economic priorities when I look at our budget. Last year, the allocation for development was at about 16%, right? Ideally, a country like Kenya should focus having at least 35% of our budget going into development. This year was actually, I saw that it was even pushed down to 9%. So we are borrowing more. Less is being allocated to development. So there's nothing wrong inherently with borrowing, as long as you're borrowing with a plan that you want to develop. We're also having, when you look at the budget and you see some allocations that really do not make sense, we're talking about IPO now getting a little bit more money. When we had, for example, State House, whose budget has now gone up. So there's a lot of issues that, it would be good to have a bit of clarification. And just to understand, what is the plan to get money into the people's pocket? Because we know that people who are salaried, for example, are earning less today than they were right before the administration came in. And this is because of the housing plan, because of SHA, because of all these programs that are going on. What is the end goal to this? We're talking about competition issues, we're talking about this and that. So we've had that. We've also seen some sectors also going up at the same time, which is good. For example, I always tell them, you look at the coffee industry, for example, that is being streamlined, that is going, undergoing a transformation that we haven't seen before, that is happening. So why don't we try and focus on how we're going to fix the microeconomic indicators, to put more money, stimulate it into an anxious pocket? And by the way, by that, I don't mean giving handouts.
For sure. Now, Nelson, you were part of the team that campaigned for the current regime. From your assessment now, how have they kept to the promises?
Sorry to say, it's a lost cause, because we campaigned on a very simplistic, people-oriented agenda. agribusiness to ensure that people have food, sustainable food production, access to medical care, good education, employment opportunities and business opportunities. There has been a failure in this. Look at education, for instance, CBC. And what happens when teachers are called to go to State House? They don't mention the problems they have in school, lack of classrooms, lack of capacity to implement CBC. Instead, the head of the teachers goes there and says two-term. This shenanigan never even happened during the time of President Daniel Arap Moi. Ambrose, there, Dongo, will never have done something stupid like this. Healthcare, where are we? He was talked to my landlord, Kamal Marwa. He said he voted for William Samuel Ruto, and he knows I'm William Samuel Ruto's friend. And he tells me, Mzee, sahi sitampigia huyu kura tena. Understand? I don't want to be his master's voice like my friend Gabriel Hill. I just want to report what is happening. Nowadays, you will be afraid to call or speak to anybody in Westlands, because the other day I called Kweyu and asked Kweyu, how have you been since the last election? Then said, I'm doing badly. I moved to Upper Hill. I'm now driving a taxi. Are you still running? I told him, yes, I'm still running. Could you please send me something for Unga and milk? You see? Now, President William Samuel Ruto has even worsened the situation. And why is he worsening the situation? Because he's cognizant of the fact that he doesn't have universal acceptability from the people of Kenya. That is the reason why he's conglomerating teams at State House. I wish people call the doctors and the nurses, including my sister, who graduated with a degree in medicine, but has not been employed for the last 3 years. I wish he could call them to State House and tell them what he wants to do for them. I wish he could call the lecturers who have planned a strike to State House and tell them what he's planning for them. I wish he could call 20,000 Gen Zs to State House and tell them, this is what we planned for you, this is what we've achieved. Do you understand? Yeah. And to that extent, I'm disappointed. And I've said time without number. I apologize most profusely to the people of Kenya. But you see, he who doesn't make a mistake never learns. This is an opportune moment for us to see to what extent there's been a failure in good governance by the people we put in office, and what is our responsibility to the people of Kenya as far as this mistake is concerned. Can anything be done? Look, much will have been done because President William Samuel Ruto had the goodwill of the people of Kenya. In fact, sorry to say, he could have been equated to Captain Ture, because he came in as the people's president, as the hustler. And he manifested every facet of the hustler. But when he reached office, he jettisoned all those ideas, and there is credible merit in the fear that this administration is concealing public funds in brick and mortar everywhere, making it impossible to sustain education, healthcare, agriculture, and employment opportunities. There is a failure.
Gabriel, so you speak for the government. How do you see yourselves 3 years in?
First of all, I'm shocked. When did you stop believing in our dream? You helped craft it.
I woke up.
My good wakili here has mentioned a lot of things, and it's sometimes good to put things into perspective. I'm glad Sheila mentioned part of this journey, where we were and where we are today. And I told, I remember when we were with you last summer, I was telling you, to be fair, sometimes it's always where we are, so that we can all appreciate the journey that we've come. Wakili has mentioned, like I said, a lot of things. He has talked about healthcare, he has talked about food, he has talked about meeting hustlers,
not meeting up with these Gen Zs in State House. And I just reminded you, I know you saw on TV, there was a time so many hustlers.
I never watch TV, I just come on TV.
Wakili, you can do better. You can do better. Yeah, start watching them. Then how would you know if you don't? You know, I know there's a way you get your news. So these things have been happening. You've talked about doctors. You remember last year there was the strike, the doctor strikes. You remember there was the CBA that they were talking about. People sat down. They agreed. They ironed issues, and the doctors are back to work. So
my sister is still feeling chicken in Anguilla. Why can't she be accommodated as a medical doctor?
That was, I'm talking about last year, and the interventions that were done. You know, when you talk Wakili, and sometimes I know you can be fair, it's always good to point out things that have worked and those that haven't. So when you say that the issue of teachers, which I agree with you, and through the verification process that we have seen, there has been issues, but look at what is being done. When you talk about agriculture and food in particular, me and you, I know we've read a great deal of history, and we know there are societies which have actually gone to the doldrums because of food, right? And look at the intervention that was done. Just the other day, a few years back, we moved from our current city, that people are walking across town with bakulis and sufurias. What were they talking? What were they agitating for? It was hunger. And I know that topic will never leave us, but it is a very clear intervention that was done. We have, and I know you have this data, so I told Sam the other day, for the first time in history, we have 76 million bags of maize. You tell me if that is not progress. And luckily, I mean, we know. I don't think we'll ever arrive. And sometimes I feel we do a disservice to ourselves. Sheila, will never arrive to a stage where we will have a hungry moment. Success when building a nation is very different. When somebody says, I've succeeded to get something, or I've succeeded to build this thing. When it comes to building, or when it comes to developing a nation, the definition of success is very different, because we don't have a hungry moment. Things must be subjected to a progressive advance.
Are you confusing figures there? You said 76 million bags of maize?
Yes.
I thought the statement I saw from the president was 67 million.
What I saw, what I had is 76 million. We can check the figures, obviously.
Yeah.
Usually some. I know you're very good.
But also,
I know you're very good with figures. So I'm always very careful when I.
Well, that's not the point.
See that thing you hold there. I don't have my figures yet, but I can check. Let's
but also,
it shows you. It shows you. It's the highest sum. It's the highest thing. Just finish that thing on finger. So I was telling you, we have to subject things on a progressive advance. Yes, there have been challenges. That's what we will be talking about. But if you look at the road, you have to accept we were not where we used to be. That is why we don't have people putting on Australia and going across town talking about hunger. So in general, and I know we're going to speak about some of these things today. I am glad. I am really glad.
You don't answer your question. How government is itself on your performance of the last 3 years?
No. I told you.
So what from
actually we are actually heading in the right direction. The interventions that we've done, Sam, whether it's housing, and this is why I believe we are going to talk about this in the course of this sitting, whether it's housing, what we promised, we've already kickstarted. Just look at the number of youths today when we talked about employment. And I know I was in a bar yesterday where the conversation was, why can't you just get jobs here locally? Okay. Why, it became a very toxic conversation because somebody believed that Kenyans should not go outside the country, And I was trying to tell them,
we're having this conversation.
Yeah. No. I was saying,
not
Kenyans should not. Yes, I'm saying, somebody was believing, probably they are watching us tonight, somebody was believing Kenya should not leave because we should create employment here. And I was telling them, we are doing everything possible. And even the interventions that we've done on employment, it is not where we were. It is not where we were 3 years ago. Okay. So if you want a clouded direction of where we are going, Sam, I can tell you we are heading in the right direction.
Okay, all right, Gabriel, I'll come back to you for more. Sheila, you're becoming uncomfortable.
No, I wanted to make a clarification, Gabriel. We're not looking for a hooray moment. That would not be a meaningful discussion. Just like you said, we are looking at progress.
Correct.
And I love numbers.
Correct.
For me, numbers don't lie. That's why I started by saying, look at the inflation rate when you started, and look at the inflation rate 3 years later. And then I give you the devil is always in the detail.
Correct.
So they said you're working on the inflation rate, but you are disabling the purchasing power. So then you have a counterbalance of that. When you talk about youth and employment, Sam, the numbers are very clear. Kenya Bureau of Statistics offers all these numbers very clearly. When you look at the number of unemployment or the number of youth, you're now moving to about 75% of this population will be under the age of 35.
Correct.
So even if you wanted to send them up, that's why my question is always, what is the plan? Because even if you wanted to offer opportunities away, you cannot empty 75%.
I agree. Wait, Sheila, I'm with you. I'm 100%. No, I'm agreeing with that. This is good. I'm agreeing with that.
Good. So when I say as a young person that I'm frustrated, Gabriel, I'm frustrated because the answers are not rocket science. The other day I saw the president saying, I'm trying to emulate Singapore. I studied the Singaporean economy.
Yes, I did.
You did too. So you know very well that the economic plan, that they were very intentional about what they were doing.
As we are, Sheila, as we are.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking, so what is the plan here? Because it's been 3 years now. Now we've gone past the half mark, right? Yeah. We're proceeding. So, for example, we had Singapore. Singapore decided we don't have a lot of resources. We're a small country. We're going to focus on the service industry, and therefore everybody, we need to focus on education, invest well in education. It was quite intentional as we go. What are the drivers of the economy in Kenya today?
I think Sam is the one who should be asking the question, but I can take that question.
We're having a discussion here. Let her finish.
When we look at the drivers of the economy of this country, we start with agriculture, then we move to service. Then you ask yourself, what fuels the agricultural industry, right? What fuels the service industry, right? You have, for example, I'll focus on service because a lot of young people are affected by that. Education is one of them. You have to have a strong education, which Singapore did, by the way. They had a very strong, because they were intentional about working on the service industry. So you have to make sure your education is intact. You have to make sure your healthcare system is working seamlessly, right? Now, the issue that we're discussing today, and Gabriel, every time we do this, it's because, at least for me, I stick to the issue because I love this country. I don't want to go anywhere. I've studied abroad. I've done all those things. I want to stay here. So it's in my best interest that we find a solution. So when you look at the service industry in Kenya, for example, what is the plan? Because not all of us young people can be taken today and gone abroad. We want an education system that actually works. We want a healthcare system that provides that we are safe and we are secure. And so I'm curious to hear, Sam, the plan.
Right.
With numbers. So it's not like we're expecting an instant, a quick instant.
Okay. All right. And then we'll get deeper into those conversations because also there are several programs that Gabriel, you brought out, as well as Sheila, saying the impact they've had on people's pockets, but for you, you're talking about the impact they've had on the economy and perhaps the future of this country and the implementation of the plan, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza that Nelson Harvey really campaigned for, but now regrets. Go back in a moment.
He's not regret.
Go back in a moment.
With AMSA, kila transaction is step closer to possibilities. Swipe 1K ama do 5 digital transactions na uko kwa race ya kuwin 1 million Kenya shillings. Una AMSA debit ama credit card, acha story. Apply sahi uingie kwa winners list. Visit absabank.co.ke or an ABSA branch near you and play your cards right. ABSA, your story matters.
Aloe body lotion, infused with nature's finest ingredients, goat milk. Feel a radiant glow and embrace the natural confidence that flows from within. From Tropical Brand.
children who are admitted lose school time because they're in hospital for long periods of time. We can do something about their education together.
Get ready to make a difference in the fight against childhood cancer. Join us on Saturday, 20th September for the 4th edition of the Be Bold, Go Gold Walk by Faraja Cancer Support Trust at Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, Kauro in Muguga, off the Nairobi-Nakuru Highway. Let's raise awareness and funds around childhood cancer that affects 3,000 Kenyan children annually. To register and for details, call this number. Sign up and come walk for hope against childhood cancer. Be Bold, Go Gold 2025 Walk, an initiative by Faraja Cancer Support Trust, proudly sponsored by Rural Media Services.
What's the matter? Please.
Active pineapple sizzle. Big fine banana. Hold up. Clear. Did he just dip that wing into his captain in cola? Love it. However you spice on.
Faster speed, safe and secure. Over 50 million Kenyans. One network. Safaricom. Popote ulipo.
Nunua 300 ml Coke Fanta Strike Stress Tony au Nobida. Sekipekelea yellow utume code for 40111. Shinda bundles, instant cash, ama uwe the next millionaire. This promotion is a game of chance. Terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly.
Slow melting, smooth coating, long lasting. Test the inayoshinda. Nunua any two participating Cadbury products. Now scan QR code au tuma WhatsApp for a chance ya win a share of 2 million shillings in amazing prizes. Cadbury, there's a glass and a half in everyone. T's and C's apply.
Every Friday, 10 p.m. Unajua ni kudunda kudojo. Piga tatu.
Aku baju, ilam tua pandai ku baju.
E for the energy, C for the pie, E for the energy. Uleza lita media design
Because Africa's mega ice man, good and men.
10 over 10 every Friday from 10 p.m. 10 over 10, spiced by Captain Morgan Gold. Hold up, clear. Did he just dip that wing into his captain in cola? Love it. However you spice on.
Welcome back. It's watching JK Live, and you're having a conversation here on the state of the nation. 3 years in for the Kenya Kwanza administration. What does life look like? There's data from TIFA research that they released, I think, a week ago, and they were saying that 70% of respondents said that their personal or family economic situation has actually worsened. 70% across the country. Only 10% say it has gotten better. And you look at the spread of debt finding across the country. There's no single region that says things have gotten better more than it has gotten worse. So I don't know, Gabriel, what that means for the government of Kenya.
Well, and like I told you, Sheila, when I said there's no hooray moment, actually you knew what I was saying. I was saying everything must be subject to a progressive advance, and that is what we hope at some point. We will get out exactly from where we are. And now we start, and now we start at the very least, see things happen, according to really what Mwananchi desires. I think that's our goal. All of us, if we have to.
What I'm asking Gabriel is,
you've mentioned,
just hold on, so that I can
just
hold on. We hear on a daily basis the leadership of this country saying that things are way better, that have gotten the country from where it was.
Yes.
We're now accessing the international market.
Correct.
At the same time, we're accumulating debt, 3 trillion shillings plus, over the last 3 years. So it's an average of 1 trillion shillings.
And some the other day.
Just hold on. Gabriel, please. So when all those facts are speaking to, yes, we're accessing the international market, but the debt is growing, but the Mwananchi is telling you, I'm happy, I am worse than I was in 2022. How do you reconcile the government rhetoric versus the reality?
Again, I won't use such a word, the government rhetoric. I won't use such a term. But, I go back to the conversation we had a few days ago. And the data that I have, and I believe you have the same data. And I was telling you, somebody may not feel that the economy is heading the right place, but there are key indicators. For instance, we are not the one who graded ourselves back to the being, it's not ourselves, it's the international institutions. And the reason why they take so many indicators, and they say, hey, well, you're heading in the right direction. You may not feel it, and even when you sit down to talk about the economic degradation process, it's not something that happens in a year. And that's why I want you to appreciate how deep we were. And it has taken a raft of interventions and measures to get us to where we are. Some, until we appreciate that, our conversation will be very diluted. And that's what I'm saying. It may seem, it may seem as if it's a laissez kind of thing. But bringing fertilizer from 7,200 to 2,500, that was a great intervention. It has assisted. There is impact, to that. When you talk about the cost of fuel, which is a key driver to our economy, bringing it down, the intervention that was done has definitely
because of what?
The cost of fuel.
Fuel is more expensive now than we saw in 2022.
Some really.
Yes.
You have the data. I have the data.
My data was
the data I have, and the interventions that are done, the information that I have, which we can cross-check with you. And I told you, I know you're.
When did you launch fuel?
So.
No, Gabriel.
Wait a minute. Sam.
Sorry, to benefit the
viewer.
viewer.
Let me finish and then
benefit the viewer. A liter of petrol in 2022 September was 159 shillings.
Let me finish.
A liter of petrol today is about 185 shillings.
Yesterday was. Yesterday, did you check the?
Just hold on. Yes, there was a release that reduced it by 79 cents just the other day.
You said it reduced. Correct.
79 cents.
It's a reduction.
Or 0.79.
So probably what you.
No, Gabriel. The question I'm asking is, during this time, VAT on fuel has gone up by 100%, from 8% to 16%.
What I don't want.
The road maintenance levy fund has grown from 18 shillings to 25 shillings.
What I don't want us to do, Sam, I think is to reduce this conversation.
No, you're saying the fuel has become cheaper. It's not.
No. You mentioned yourself that it came down yesterday. Now, we may disagree on so many other things, Sam, but the intervention done on fuel is way much better than what we were doing in the past. That one you have to agree. Moving closer, and probably we can still look at that data. Same thing I've just told you about the maize from last year, which I corrected that figure from 67 to now heading to 70 million bags, and we are hopeful that it will come to 75. Now, I've had people arguing, and this is the corner of man, and I don't think we'll ever get out of this. We have had, instead of saying at least we're heading in the right direction, somebody argued with me the other day, and he said, and said, no, it's because of the rains. So you start wondering, when we have the rains back there, right? So that's why we had difficulty. That's right. But still, you cannot fail. You cannot fail to look at the interventions that have been done. I just wanted to tell you something when we were watching sports. Yeah. Even though, and we're doing very well. We're doing very well. And we congratulate our girls and the people who are bringing us the gold taken, it's been a while before we really injected serious funding into sports. Now, anybody bringing in a gold medal, do you know how much they are taking? From the former 750,000. Any person who brings a gold medal home takes 3 million. Silver, I think it's 1.5 million, not wrong. I think the gold, the bronze, I think it's somewhere good. That intervention, Wanahari,
how many athletes do you have in the country?
It says, yeah, I'm talking about first of all, hear the good news, Sam. So, there's somebody serious about sports. Okay. Who wants to actually make that,
all right, Gabriel. Thank you.
Nelson, you really
is it possible, because you look like government is pretty concerned, which is a good concern, about the big things, the macroeconomics that she's talking about here. Is it possible for change to trickle down and make lives better for people?
It is possible. And the complexity with which our friends in government have taken this matter is our Achilles heel. If you're concentrating on agriculture, agribusiness, simple. Buy tractors, reduce the purchase of land cruisers. It's as simple as that. We cannot claim that we are targeting a certain level of financial sustainability if we haven't met the rudimentary processes. Sorry to say, in Kenya to a large extent, we have not even reached the industrial revolution so far as agriculture is concerned. So this rhetoric about 77 million bags of maize is unsustainable. And you see, I'll still go and hit this tone at a particular point. Gabriel, you must permit me to do that. I've started with food. Stop expenditure on projects that are not value addition to the issues that are core and basic to our age. If it is food, capacitate agriculture. If it is education, capacitate education. If it is healthcare, capacitate healthcare. You understand? The common Kenyan mwananchi is least bothered about this data that you seem to have. When you approach them, they will deal with you basically. I'm sick, I'm hungry, I don't have a job. To the extent that these three needs have not been met, they'll transcend to wants as and when we go to the election. Listen, Gabriel, and that is the reason why the president of all the people is calling people to State House to meet their basic needs. Food.
I think we are diluting that conversation. No, I think we are diluting that conversation.
Yeah. Why do you want to make it complex and begin things?
It's not complex. You can't reduce the ability to state house like that's already seen. When you're talking about health.
Sam, do I see the microphone?
No. Let me just intervene.
A direct interjection.
Yeah, of course. When he talks about health, when he talks about health, I mean, are you really looking at the interventions from the CHPs? I'm looking at the interventions of really.
Those are acronyms that have been coined.
It's not acronyms.
To begin the common mwananchi. Listen, Gabriel, now I'll be assertive. The Kenyan mwananchi wants food. He wants to be treated. He wants his children to go to school. And he wants a source of income. To the extent that there's been a failure to facilitate the provision of these basic needs, then you cannot say that there is growth. Growth must be manifest. It ought not to be explained in complex economic terms.
Okay, where you're going wrong is the term failure. It's using the term failure.
Gabriel, we have enough time. Please.
Yeah.
Don't use failure, I'm sure.
So there's been ultimate failure on all these facets of growth. And to that extent, the earlier we admit where the problem is, as some of us have done, the better placed we are to see areas of improvement. And that is the problem with the Kenya Kwanza government. Every time it's pointed out to them, they come and concede. And this has been the methodology. About human rights violations, no. Let the police shoot everybody. Then all of a sudden, they come and say, fine, we'll come up with a panel to look into this. the finance bill is okay, we'll not withdraw it. If the people make noise, all of a sudden you come back and withdraw it. You know, a fool is he who does the right thing last. And we ought not to be in that situation, especially when we're entrusted with heavy responsibilities of governance. It cannot be like that.
Something like
that. I rest my case.
You know, I want to first hear from Sheila because, like Wakili says here, there's been several delegations to State House. What appears like it's a moment to reconnect with the people from different regions. We've seen teams from Kisii, from Murang'a, from Kiambu, and others. And at each of these meetings, there has been a promise. Kiambu was promised 30 billion shillings worth of affordable housing units. In number, they're 15,000. Kisii, a similar promise, 30 billion shillings for 15,000 housing units. Murang'a County, 23 billion shillings worth of projects. In number, it's about 10,300. If you put that together, it comes to close to 100 billion shillings that has been promised. What is this, and what is the place of this in building an economy?
I think there's nothing legally wrong with people going to State House. I think that's just the governance style that President Ruto is choosing to have. It's his style, there's nothing wrong with that. I think here's where, from an economic perspective, then, it becomes a little bit tricky. I'm not sure where the evidence is of how much these meetings are costing. The last time the speakers were there was some news coming back and forth. The second thing is that the promises that come in, you can only hope that these are budgeted projects that, you know, the government had thought about, and they knew that anyway they would be giving, you know, Murang'a and Kisii and, you know, all these places this particular project, so that it's not a question of sticks and carrots. Because I keep insisting on economic planning. I sound like a broken record, but it needs to be planned. You see, the thing is, you cannot use political tools to fix economic issues. It never works in the end. I know it feels good politically speaking, but from an economic perspective, you always have to ensure that there was a plan in place, there was a bit of due diligence put across. I think that's what I've always said also about the empowerment programs that was going around the country. I said, great, it's good that you do that, but again, you always need a dual force going on. If you choose to do this, then you have to say, what is the due diligence that was given? Did we first, map out the stakeholders? Did we do capacity building so that we have sustainability? Because we have how many millions of people in Kenya today? If we are all to walk into State House to get something from it, is that really something that is sustainable? And if it is that they come in and they're getting these programs, you can only hope that these are pre-planned programs that the president had already said, this financial year, we're building X units in these particular places. And so he's just using the politics as the last kind of, the last mile of it. That would be a hope that I would have, because, again, I'm not privy to any plan that is carried out. But, I think at the end of the day, you cannot, we're too many. And, it might, you're not even being exhausted, because you come today, I come, you give me, I turn around tomorrow and I'm still upset again because I want you to, keep giving me. And then there are people who are left out. They think, why did my group receive this? Why did you pick that one over this one? You start having issues like that, which we need to tread a little bit careful with. At the end of the day, we need a system that works for everybody. If you have systemic change, then it will not matter. You will go into a hospital, you will be a Kenyan citizen, and you will be treated. You'll get your medicine. You'll have your, you'll have your business, and whether you're employed or not, so you're not discriminating people with paychecks, everybody will pay in their taxes into the system, and then we'll all get to benefit out of it. You have to solve the problem we have in Kenya today, systemically. You're not going to be able to run away with it in any other way. Political solutions will not work. We need to kind of roll our sleeves up and ask, how do we systemically create opportunities for youth in order to have employment? Gone are the days you could have a bahasha, go to your ministry, and then you employ 70 people from my village. That's not happening. So what should we be doing to intervene? The role of government is supposed to create a conducive environment for business to operate. You don't give the last mile. You simply make sure that you create a conducive environment so that the private sector can help you meet your development goals. So what does that mean? What does that look like? It looks like you working on your factors of production. If you want industries to come in, what is the price of electricity? What is the reliability of electricity? What are the, the pros and cons? How do you work to get your permits? Are we working on the ease of business? Those are the things that for me, I look at and I worry about. Our ease of business time was at 31. We're still at 31. Why have we not improved this? So that you have industries coming and industries don't leave. Why don't we think we have one of the most educated populations in Africa, period? You have countries that have gone through the same problems that we're going through with youth unemployment. What did India do with their unemployed youth? India set up, business processing units using IT. They made sure that you could go and you could have your your back-end IT solutions for companies being processed in India. We have an educated population. Why don't we become the welcoming country that sets up, business processing units? And you can absorb a lot of youth. Because when you do that, you provide healthcare for them, you give them a paycheck, they're able to then have that purchasing power that I was talking about. But these interventions, they are systemic.
There has to be a plan. Now, Gabriel, as you reflect on what Sheila just said, for the sake of fairness, we spoke to the chairperson of CUPET yesterday, and he said that every teacher going to State House was given 10,000 shillings as transport reimbursement. There were 10,000 teachers there. It's about 100 million shillings. Do you know how much it costs to hold such kind of event?
No, I honestly don't know.
And secondly, because they look like the expensive meetings, where does the money come from?
I honestly can't give that. I can't give you that answer, obviously. First of all, you have to reflect, and I think you've taken it like a hard State House. No.
You're the government spokesperson.
Not for State House. State House, they have their own spokesperson. It was your colleague.
Okay, so
anyway,
what do you cover? So, when you speak for government, you cover from where to where?
Just government. Government. Kuna State House is covered by somebody else, and it's very well demarcated roles. The issue that you talked about the groups that have been going. Yes, there are so many groups that have been going, and like Sheila has said, there's nothing wrong. You have to realize, even before, when my president was the deputy president, he still used to meet with people, so there's nothing wrong about that. I didn't hear, and I'm not saying it's not true what you're saying. I didn't hear the 10,000 shilling. I didn't hear, and I'm not saying you're lying. But I didn't hear. Obviously, to a level I trust you, but I don't think I have any powers to ask that question that you asked. How much money was spent? I don't think.
The essence of that question, Gabriel, you look at, and I think we touched on this the other time we were here. The cost of running government is going way high, to an extent that in the financial year 2024-2025, you had to do a lot of supplementary budgets to cut the expenditure allocation, development expenditure allocation to finance recurrence. If you look at State House itself, after the Gen Z demonstrations, the budget was reduced to 4.5 billion shillings. Ultimately, according to the Control of Budget report, the expenditure by State House was 11.7 billion shillings.
And you keep asking
against a promise of 4.5.
That question about State House. Let me tell you what, I think I'll look for that data. I'll get it from...
No, I have the data. I'm just asking, what is the thinking?
Well, I can't tell you what's behind that thinking.
Yeah.
But I would bet. Yeah, but it's budgeted for. Allow me to say that. Where I wanted to interject, Sam, before you raise the thing about the people going to State House, where I wanted to interject is what Sheila talked about. What is happening to bring the investors? And obviously, the infrastructure.
So let him answer about the 100 million.
I can't answer about the 100 million. I wasn't there, so So the infrastructure, these are some of let me not even. These are some of the things that when you wholly look at some of the things that would appeal to investors, is what you're talking about, the cost of electricity. And as we know, so there's that particular intervention. I was just telling you the other day, as somebody, we had a very, very big debate about roads. Huge one. Yeah. And the person saying, don't you understand that this is a key driver for investors, opening up spaces for investors, both local and those, international investors coming in. What is happening with all these roads that have been stuck since, some from 2016 all the way. where we had contractors who left it, you know, and when
No, you were sitting at somewhere, then you moved.
No,
Let me
I was talking about the road infrastructure. It is the same thing.
The cost of doing business for investors. How has the government, over the last 3 years, improved that front?
No, I'm telling you about the key indices. That actually wholly makes a country attractive is the infrastructure. And I was just giving you an example of roads before again you take it. I don't know why you hate me talking about roads, but anyway, let me keep it short. We had so many. Anyway, it's a banter. It's a banter, Sam. It's a banter, Sam. It's a banter, Sam. We had Sheila, we had 582 roads. That's contractors that we have moved away from. That is actually what we have to get ahead. And I won't hit him on healthcare.
Carry on.
Only on healthcare, you know, I'm just afraid of going into that. But anyway,
Have the mic.
It's wrong, Wakili, to say that healthcare has failed. People, 1 million people, with 45 billion euros. If there are a number of people who probably have not been able